Hey guys, here it is, the Grand Seiko Shosho, reference SBGJ249 on my 6¼ inch wrist. An absolute stunner of a watch. I mean, just look at that dial. And I bought this watch, this is my second Grand Seiko, from the Grand Seiko boutique in New York, X Watches of Switzerland. An absolute chill place to buy a watch, no pressure, really good people there, beautiful display cases. And when I walked into the store, I honestly was expecting to come out with either the blue Montawate boutique edition, the white birch, or the skyflake, and all of which were available, and I handled them all. And yet I came out with this watch that wasn't even on my list. And I want to share why I think this is the most exciting, to me at least, Grand Seiko release in recent memory, maybe barring the Kurzuri, which is one of my purchase regrets. So let's get right into it. So let's go ahead and knock out the technical specs of this timepiece so that I can make an argument for the subjective factors as to why I chose this over all of the others. So 39.5 millimeters diameter with a lug-to-lug of 47 millimeters is why this watch wears so easy on a wide variety of wrists, including slimmer ones such as my own. And wow, does that dial look good on my wrist. It also sports the 9S86 movement. This is a high beat movement from Grand Seiko with a GMT functionality. Typical Grand Seiko finishing here. Apologies for the smudges. And this is a slight upgrade from the typical GMT Elegance collection timepieces from Grand Seiko, which I suppose does slightly justify its higher price point of $6,800 USD at retail. I would just quickly note that Rolex has also recently increased prices for their retail watches across the board, if you can even get them at retail prices. And we are in a time period of inflation. So it's just something to keep in mind when trying to determine the value of this watch. Now let's ignore all the technical specs here and just talk about the way this watch makes me feel. And this is really why I came out with it. So the Shosho is meant to evoke the feelings one gets when they're, experiencing the summer winds. The wind is hitting against a still body of water and creating the ripple effects that we're also familiar with. And I just feel that this particular nature reference is so much more relatable than that of the white birches in Japan or the peaks of Mount Awate. And it's almost nostalgic to look at this dial. It really does bring me back to the times of the many vacations I've taken on lakes, and specifically in New York, where I bought this timepiece on vacation, the Hudson River. And I just find this watch so relatable. Now, many will say that this is just a rotated white birch dial. And while that may be practically true, I will say the way that this dial plays with the light is just a whole nother level. That blue hue really does make the dial pop out more. And just the way the striations of the dial works out, on the wrist, the light play is just much more romantic, in my opinion, as opposed to the light play of the white birch, which would be rotated vertically. And the light just doesn't quite play the same way, compared to the Shosho. So, point on the Shosho for dial and light play. Now, this was a subjective call. Again, I had the white birch, the Mount Awate in blue, and the skyflake, and I came out this watch because of the way it makes me feel. It makes me feel nostalgic. It is a very relatable dial, and the light play of this timepiece is like none other. What are the negatives? This is a 30-meter resistance watch, so you can't quite, go into the water with it, while it does make you feel like you can. And it does sport a typical Grand Seiko bracelet and deployment clasp, and I've always found that while comfortable and competent, Grand Seiko bracelets just don't, pack the punch that their case designs, dials, and dial furnishings do, just relatively speaking. So the Grand Seiko Shosho, reference SBGJ249, just a gorgeous piece. I think this is the most exciting release that I've seen since the Kurzuri. Something definitely to consider.